emotional regulation doesn't mean that you're just super chill all day long.
You can't take healthy risk if you don't have any fear of the risk itself, because then otherwise you put too much dip on your chip.
Yeah.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Training Well Done, your podcast on the what, the why, and the how of quality training. I'm your co-host, Coach Donald.
Coach Tim.
And we are back to talk more about sports psychology, and importantly, the psychology of do you like people waiting on you or waiting on others? How do you handle that?
I don't like either. But it can be, I don't know. I think it can be very, very situational too, right? Because if it's a low stakes environment, then, you know, no harm, no foul. Like in the example that we were just talking about when we were off air, which triggered this whole conversation. In that example, relatively low stakes. So like it was chill.
Mm.
In a more high stakes environment, then I feel like it becomes sort of this like almost a power struggle over like whose time is more valuable.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's
and
like
who's earlier.
who's waiting on who? Like, are they too busy for me? Am I like not busy enough? Am I like I don't know. I think in high stakes environments, there's it's just a different dynamic. I don't know. I'm the kind of guy who like always shows up to places early anyway. So I guess if I had to answer your question, like I'll wait. Like I'd much rather be where I need to be and not feel rushed
Mm-hmm.
than just like hang out. What about you?
I feel like everybody listening knows the answer to this question.
I had to do it. I had to toss it
First
back.
of all, I do not like waiting on people at all whatsoever. I don't like waiting on people. Like, if it's like the next minute, I'm like, nah, I'm starting to get a little anxious, or I'm just kind of like, or my mind will start thinking about something else I could be doing.
Uh-huh.
So like, oh, well, if they're not here yet, I could do something else, which is the exact issue that I have. I am very rarely early. I prefer to be right on time and just get right into it. And I like other people to want to show up right on time and get right into it. Because I don't show up early to places, I don't expect myself to have much transition time. Let's say I have a meeting with something, I expect to be able to walk in, open my laptop, say hi, and immediately begin having working conversation.
Yeah.
I don't need to do the small talk. I don't need to say hi and do all of the hugs and handshakes. I will walk right in at 12 o'clock and immediately start talking at 12 o'clock and 30 seconds. Ideally, I like to be a few minutes early to reduce everybody else's anxiety. If sometimes
that's fair.
People who are expecting everybody else to be early, they're like, all right, they want you to be there 5 minutes early so that they feel calm. I do recognize that. But I'm also one of those people that I'm always trying to figure out one more thing I can do or check on. Like I hate being really early. Like I don't like being that early. Like then I'm just sitting there and then I'll end up being late anyways, or almost walking right on time. Cause like I'll drive somewhere and I'm 15 minutes early. I won't go in. I'm gonna sit in the car, and then I'm gonna wait till the last 3 minutes to get out the car and go in. And cause I'm like, I don't know what to do right now. And or leaving the house, I'm like, oh, Leslie, this drove her crazy. We were talking about this yesterday. We went simply to just go up to 5 Points to go get a coffee, and she went to go change his diaper. Oh, I could go make something to eat real quick. No, you can't go make something to go eat. I'm going to change his diaper. It's going to take me 2 minutes. It's going to take you 2 minutes to make the plate, and then another 2 minutes to put it in the microwave, and I'm going to be waiting on you. But I just didn't want to wait for her to change his diaper, so I was like, I could find something else to do.
2 minutes. Yeah.
And I ended up just getting a quick bite. And then as soon as we went outside, I was like, my car was, so 5 Points is up the hill from the staircase. My car was not even a full car space to the left, but it was left of where we were turning. And I was like, oh, let me go get some water. That's my water bottle in the car. She's like, Donald, why can't we just leave and go do the thing? Why is there always another subtask that you want to do? I was like, but I was in front of you, and it was only going to take a few seconds to get, but we're going this way. So what do you need to go to your car to go get water for? And I was like, it's just a quick swig. That's not the point. It's time to leave, and you always have something else to do when it's time to leave. Sometimes, like, I'll be having full transparency for people sometimes. Sometimes I will need to leave to go to the track or to go to meet somebody for a meeting. Sometimes it's a virtual meeting that I'm in my house for, and I'm like, all right, it's 6:58. Let me check this email real quick. Why? I'm not going to answer it. Sometimes I do. But, like, why? Why do I need to do that? Like, I feel this compulsion to, like, do another thing if I have even just a little bit more time to do it. It goes back to the last episode of, like, if there's time on the clock, I'm going to try to fill it.
That is too
versus,
funny.
like, just let the time be. And I need to figure out how to be a let the time be person, because I think that will allow me to start being early. And I don't really like being early, but I can handle just being early. And, like, you know, doing, I guess, the small talky stuff that people like to do. But I also, like, I'm just good with, I don't need any transition time to go in and do things. I can walk in and just get started. Some people need to, like, ease into the room and do all of that. And, like, I don't know if it's because I'm not going to say I don't need that, but I know that I'm not going to be that early. So I give
it's off the table.
I just take that off the table anyways.
Yeah. I could totally see, like, that example you just shared. Like, I could totally see that. And it's funny because I'm the exact opposite. Like, again, in the conversation we were just having, like, Monday morning, like, I'm trying to get to the gym as early as I possibly can, trying to get that board done, like, get everything sorted out, and then I'm gonna, like, I don't know, sit and finish my coffee for, you know, in the 10 minutes before people start showing up for class. So, like, I'm wired completely opposite. I cannot switch gears at the drop of a hat like that.
Yeah. The one time I will do that Saturday morning when I coach Saturday mornings, I will show up pretty early. Cause, like, I don't know, I'll make some tea and I'll be like, I'm just going to chill here for a minute before people get here.
Sometimes it's just cool to be in the space when it's not being used, you know, just like, I mean, I imagine you feel a lot differently than I do. You know, it's your gym, it's your space, but, like, I don't know, just sit there and experience it. But all right, so today we are going to continue our sports psychology conversations. We are going to discuss the second of three main components to sports psychology. The first being mental skills training that we talked about on the last episode. If you didn't listen to that, definitely check that out. That kind of lays the groundwork for some of this stuff. Before we dive into it, we want to, I'm big on this. I always just like to define terms right off the bat. So, like, there are no assumptions. You're like, oh, I thought they were talking about this whole time. So I want to review the definition of sports psychology, and then we'll define what we're talking about today, which is emotional regulation. So sports psychology is the study and application of psychological principles to improve athletic performance, motivation, and well-being in sport and activity. We mentioned last time a lot of this is based off of cognitive behavior therapy. So even though we're going to be talking about this in a sports and performance context, you can apply all of these tools on your own if you are not athletic or competing. Emotional regulation is going to be the topic for today. So emotional regulation is the ability to manage emotional responses in ways that support effective performance, decision making, and recovery, which is an interesting piece here, before, during, and after competition. So Coach and I were chatting before we started. A lot of this you can think of just about in terms of, like, reframing, right? Reframing emotional triggers, stimulus, response, things like that. So why do we want to do this in the first place, right? How is this going to help improve our performance? Emotional regulation can affect a lot of areas of sports performance. Your attention and concentration. We talked last time about attention being an extremely important but finite resource for athletes. Emotional regulation can help with your decision making, even motor coordination, like from a physical standpoint, your perceived effort. When we use race examples throughout this conversation, that's going to come up a lot. Your confidence as an athlete, which will then have a trickle down effect on everything else, and even your communication with your teammates and coaches. So obviously that's a big one, right?
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh.
Communication is key.
You know what's interesting? You mentioned about the motor coordination. I don't think I've given a lot of thought to how your kind of emotional state can affect that. Like when I don't know if this is what it's getting at, but I think about two ends of the spectrum. One, when you're like in the flow and in the zone, like you feel very not in the flow. That's flow state. That's not emotional regulation. I mean, emotional regulation is part of that, but it's different. Like when you feel really confident and like really sure of yourself when you're doing something because you're good at it and you've practiced it well. Not just because you walk in with confidence, but because you're confident because of your competency.
Yes.
Like,
ooh, I like that.
A level of execution and coordination, I feel like you can play up. Like when I think about playing ultimate frisbee, if I feel like, hey, I've been practicing well, I've been playing well, and I feel really sharp that day, like I feel like what I'm able to do, kind of the bar goes up, the ceiling rises on what I can do that day, just because of where my headspace is versus like when my headspace is either frustrated from something before and I can't like all the way focus because like I'm bothered about something else, or you know, you make a couple bad plays and now you're like, man, I suck today. And like once you say that, now you're in this weird uphill battle. I'm trying to prove to myself that I don't suck today, or I'm embracing that I suck today. So now I'm playing differently, and like everything is more difficult to do. Like I can't connect the throw, or I'm struggling to catch, or like I'm struggling to do this other thing because now I've determined that I'm off that day, and I just kind of keep spiraling.
Yeah. No, that makes a ton of sense, and that's a great example. I'm thinking, too, in terms of like, okay, when you're trying to teach someone like a new movement in the gym, or let's say it's a movement that they've already developed some sort of proficiency at, and they just might be having an off day, and you watch them, and they're like, oh, that rep sucked. And they get down on themselves, and then the next rep sucks. And then because they had 2 reps that sucked, it's hard to like snap back out of it.
Yeah.
But if you're able to spin things, right, be like, okay, what do you think went wrong? Okay, we've identified that. How do you think we can fix that and not have it go wrong this next time? Okay, we're good. So let's do that. Then they do that, they get a nice clean rep, and all of a sudden, you know, and I'm thinking specifically with the kids here more so, but like, and then all of a sudden, they're good to go, right? So, a couple common myths that are associated with emotional regulation. You're going to notice a little bit of overlap here between the mental skills training, but first one is that good athletes just don't get nervous. BS. Good athletes get nervous all the time. They're just really good at handling the nervousness because they know what to do with it, how to harness it, how to like make it work for them. So as a result, emotional regulation doesn't mean that you're just super chill all day long, or like don't think twice about these high stakes, high pressure situations like game winning free throws and things like that. You're not calm. You're just managing the nervousness better.
It's being able to not let the negative emotions cause you to make negative choices.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And as good transition there, Coach, negative emotions aren't implicitly bad, right? They're going to happen anyway. So you can't just like completely isolate yourself from having these negative emotions. But they can be useful tools or like learning moments.
Yeah. You can't take healthy risk if you don't have any fear of the risk itself, because then otherwise you put too much dip on your chip.
Yeah.
You getting yourself in situations from a sport perspective, you put yourself in competitive situations you have no business being there, because you had no fear of the risk of showing up in a space unprepared. Or even like in real, like in life, if you don't have any fear, you can take risks that actually put your life in jeopardy. And so you need fear.
Mm-hmm.
You just obviously don't want to be
Yeah.
living by fear and making decisions completely based on that, but it's a data point.
Yeah, and along those lines, you don't want to suppress or ignore the emotional component of the sport or activity that you're participating in, right? Like you're going to have high highs and low lows,
Yeah.
right? And the point is not to just completely get rid of the lows or like I said, push them down or pretend that they don't exist.
Yeah.
As we're talking about all this out loud, Coach, I'm thinking like this all of this episode is just like know thyself.
Makes me think of like
Grasshopper.
how people think like stoicism is all like don't feel, and it's like no, this stuff is really about being able to make decisions that are for the greater good of yourself and for others despite how negative you feel, and not letting the negative feeling override all your decision making
Yeah.
versus like not feeling things at all.
Are you big into stoicism?
I wouldn't say big, but like it's something I got into some years ago, and
Same.
like
Yeah.
there are certain things that like I try to carry in regards to just being pretty sober about how life works, and not not letting myself feel like things are owed to me that are not, in regards to things from other people, and being very real about, hey, like these are being able to really feel what I'm feeling, and then being aware of, regardless of how I'm feeling right now, these are the actions that I should take. And like I kind of like use it in that sense
Yeah.
of being able to stay grounded, to make decisions despite if I'm too positive. Sometimes like something good happens, like sometimes it just you have a day that's like so amazing and all these great things happen. So there's a temptation to then like maybe you say yes to things you shouldn't have said yes to because you're in such a good mood that my tomorrow self has to pay for that.
Mm-hmm.
And I might not feel this good. I'm not going to feel this good. I might feel this good tomorrow, but I'm not going to stay feeling this good. So then when the bill comes, am I going to want to pay it? And I don't want to, have to pay a bill that I, got charged for when I was feeling good, because I let the positive emotions take me way too far into like la la land.
Yeah. It's just a more objective approach and a more of a mediated way of looking at things. I think you could. I think you do a better job of that when you allow yourself some time and space.
Yeah.
Too, right? Like,
Don't make any
okay,
important decisions in the moment.
right. Like this opportunity popped up, or this email came through, or whatever. It's like, am I going to respond to this better if I respond to it 5 minutes from now instead of 5 seconds from now?
Yeah. I think a lot of people get it mixed up with like not feeling or like suppressing, and it's not that at all.
It's not. Yeah, it's not that. Anyway, so we're going to start our deep dive now into emotional regulation. We're going to start the deep dive with a brief recap of two things that we talked about during the mental skills training episode. One is attention control. So we already mentioned that attention is a fantastic resource for athletes, but it is a finite resource. You have limited bandwidth when it comes to where you're placing your attention and what you're focusing on and emphasizing. And so part of emotional regulation is having the ability to direct your attention to the things that you want to direct it to, and not just being a victim of your brain's random wanderings. The other quick piece to review is the self-talk. So we explored self-talk again in the previous episode, and talked about how effective self-talk can help direct your actions, like your physical actions. And there's this constant interplay between your emotional state and the physical action, right? Like to use the example we just did, when you did a clean rep, you feel better about the next one. You did a poor rep, you feel worse about the next one. And there's this kind of back and forth. And self-talk can help help that back and forth, or keep that back and forth conversation from oscillating to the extremes, right? Like, that was a bad rep. I know how to fix it. Let me do that. Versus that was a bad rep. I'm a terrible athlete. I should just like put the weight down and leave the gym. Yeah. So attention, control, and self-talk, two big components of emotional regulation, but we did unpack them before. So if you're curious or haven't listened, go back and check that out, because we've got a lot more that we want to get into for this episode. And we are going to start with a term called cognitive reappraisal. So this is the process of changing how you interpret a situation in order to change or alter the emotional impact that that situation has on you, right? The situation doesn't change. What changes is the meaning or the interpretation of that situation that affects your emotional state. So this is, like we were saying, Coach, this is in essence just a fancy way of saying reframing.
Yeah. I these psychology terms are like cognitive reappraisal.
It's actually, so this stuff makes sense to me because I can break it down.
Like, I get the word, but it's just like it's just words
it's like, why?
We don't use the word appraisal unless we're talking about like a house. But like, I know what it means, but like, really, that's what we had to do.
See, if you break it into the component pieces, it's kind of like it's obviously easier to understand, but I can't do the same thing with medical terms. So Bethany will say it's like some big fancy medical term for something that's very, very simple. And she can translate it because of her background and her experience. So she can like chop it up and break it down and be like, oh, this just means that. Like, this means one direction, this means the other direction, this blah, 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 blah. I don't think, I don't know Latin well enough to be able to do that.
Oh yeah, they use a lot of Latin.
There's a lot of Latin in medical. There's not so much Latin in the psychology.
I appreciate that you said you don't know Latin well at all, and I'm like, I don't even know a single Latin word, actually. Even when you said medical terms, the first word that came to mind? Mesothelioma. In the little commercials about getting, if you've ever been, I don't know what it was, like something between 1970 and 1985, you could be, get something for mesothelioma. I don't know, that just came to my mind when you talk about medical terms.
Yeah. But I mean, that's so part. Anyway, we could go down a whole thing.
Anyways, cognitive reappraisal. So
cognitive reappraisal, i.e. reframing. Maybe we'll just stick with that. What happens, there's like a flow chart here, right? So you, as an athlete or just generally a human being, right? You're going to experience a situation. There's context. There's something is happening. The next step is that you interpret what's happening, right? You're not immediately responding to it. Your brain is interpreting what's happening and then deciding on its emotional response to that interpretation. And then you're behaving based on that emotional response. And it's important to understand these four components and this pinwheel almost of situation, interpretation, emotion that's triggered, and then the response. Because between the situation happening and the behavior, the interpretation and emotion pieces, that's where the magic is. That's where we can use, the skills-based training and really help manipulate our responses to these situations that might arise. And I know all of you out there who are, athletes and competitors are already thinking, oh, yeah, I know where he's going with this. So the excuse me, the research suggests that athletes who consistently reframe any sort of challenge or discomfort, which we'll talk about in a little bit, as manageable or meaningful, have a tendency to experience low levels of anxiety. So see your swim scenario from the previous episode. They're able to maintain their attention more effectively, and we've identified attention being, that a huge factor, and recover faster from mistakes or setbacks. So by practicing this reframing or emotional regulation, that poor rep that you just performed is less likely to set the tone for the entirety of the workout, right? Or your football example, that one dropped pass is less likely to affect the rest of the game.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to talk a little bit about the difference between, we're getting back into the term that here, reappraisal or reframing versus just positive thinking. And
how would you define
I think I'm going to go back. I'm going to go back to your football example.
Okay.
It's a reframing approach is going to acknowledge the reality of the situation, i.e., I took my eyes off the ball and dropped that pass. That's a thing that happened, right? That's information, that's data that we can funnel back, but the difference between the reframing and positive thinking is that in a positive thinking approach, you just move on, and like that never happened. That never existed. Right? And maybe this might make a little bit more sense in like the gym setting. And the example we used was, okay, that bad rep happened. A reframing approach is going to say, why did it happen? What do I need to do to correct it? And then using that to follow it up with a cleaner rep. But in order to do that, you implicitly have to recognize, I performed that bad rep. If it's just a willy-nilly positive thinking approach, just like, just go move on to the next one. That's like doesn't happen. There's no like learning associated with it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think in my head, I would have thought like positive thinking being more like simply saying, I'll do better the next one. Whereas like when I think about framing, I look at it through my lens of, hey, this situation happened and it means X, but the meaning and emotion we attach to it is like negative and not helpful. So like, that example of, hey, I'm going to suck today. Like I dropped the ball. In my head, like when I think about if I go to positive thinking, it would be, I'll just catch the next one. And that's it.
Yeah.
Versus like I don't forget, but like, I'm just going to catch the next one versus like when the reframing being necessary, once I drop the ball, I'm off today. I don't got it. I don't got it. Versus kind of reframing it to say, to your point, hey, like I just took my eyes off the ball. That's it. Like it's not really doesn't mean anything. It just means I took my eyes off. Just look at the ball next time. Like there's like a tactical cue almost of like, look at the ball next time. Or, sometimes people take it far and they start blaming everybody else. Sometimes maybe it is somebody else's fault. But like some people reframe to the point where like they also absolve themselves of responsibility. But that's slightly, I don't know if that's different. I think that's just a bad reframe.
Yeah, a poor reframe. And that's where this pinwheel is so important, right? The situation here, I dropped this pass. Okay? If we're skipping steps and jumping right into emotion, then I dropped this pass. I suck today. I'm going to play poorly. And then you play poorly. When you use that pinwheel of situation interpretation, emotion, and then behavior, okay, I dropped this pass. How do I interpret this? I dropped the pass because I took my eyes off the ball. Next time I won't take my eyes off the ball, and taking my eyes off the ball does not mean that I'm a terrible player.
Yeah.
So you avoid that negative spiral.
Yeah. I remember like I feel like high school coaching, like coaching high school, not like high schoolers at the gym, but just like the act of coaching a team is like 50% of the coaching is just this, maybe more.
Yeah.
It's just like
probably
like,
more.
I'm literally maybe more.
80-20.
I'm thinking about I was at a track meet at Slippery Rock, and I had this girl, she runs the 300 hurdles, and she had these 2 challenges. Now there was like, there's challenges that people have in life, and there's that like kind of bring us together, but she didn't have a great race, and I mean completely kind of like flipped out, and we're like trying to reframe, but like we get caught so much in the frame of the performance is our value, and
Sure.
I suck or you suck.
Yeah.
Because you're supposed to make me not suck. And so a kid doesn't have a great race. We video it, we look at it. We know why it's not a great race. The hurdling is janky, right? You're taking off too close to the hurdle, which is causing you to go vertical, which is causing you to either clip it or you're just slowing down because you're jumping up. So then you have to start speeding up again, which costs you a lot of energy, and it's slower. So then you get to the top of the curve for the last 100 in the back. So we need to be, we need to tactically do these different things, but like we have to also be in a mental state to like accept a reframe of like, hey, this is a fitness issue, right? And having conversations with kids of like, you don't suck right now from like because your value is bad and like that you're like a bad person or a bad athlete. You did not work out last summer. You cheerleaded for like 8 months, 6 months, and like not like competitive cheer where they're doing all the flips and stunts. Like this is like football, basketball, and so now we're here in March, and like you didn't improve, and maybe you regressed a little bit. I don't know. It could be just maybe something changed lifestyle wise. Maybe you're less fit. We get older and, we're not growing the same, right? Different people hit puberty at different rates. So some people can take that time off and they come back better because they grew through puberty, and other people like it actually might be the opposite. And like you didn't train. So you're starting where you started at last year. That's not bad because it's not like you tried to start further along. So like let's approach from where we're at right now. Like I don't know why we're worried about PRing in the beginning of the season when you weren't in shape to PR in the first place. So we're starting from last year. So if you can end the season where you ended last year, that's honestly good. But like you also have to be receptive to accept that frame. And like that is a challenging thing to like help do, but like that is like most of the job. And even with like really good athletes, of like, hey, you've been working really hard. We did not get the race that we wanted in the 100, but the 200 is going really well. So something's working, reframe. And then we're talking about Mr. Massey, like, hey, look, all right, we know the beginning of the season doesn't go great because you spend all fall, all winter in a 1-on-1 to 1-on-8 situation. And even when you're in a 1-on-10 situation, everybody else is just as focused as you are. It's like 1-on-30 right now, and only 3 other people are even half as focused as you are. So like we know the beginning is just kind of rough because we're trying to get everybody on the same page. Like we need to frame what the beginning of like the school season is going to be like. I'm not in full control of all of that, and we're working that out. And then all right, it's framing. It's 50 degrees and windy out. What do you expect right now?
Yeah.
What do you expect? And they didn't flip the 100, so like you have the wind in your back, it's in your face. What do you expect? Hey, look, we're later in the season. This 200's going really well. We are going to optimize for that. because we want to be able to do well. We're gonna optimize for that event because everything is working out really well for that. So we're gonna go down that path, but we're gonna change these things to help the 100 improve. So then it improves because hey, this is the reframe of what's going. Don't go into like this whole negative anxiety state of, you know, how you feel about yourself or these other things, because it's just moving pieces around.
Yeah.
And like understanding what the environment is right now.
I think there's a space in here, maybe in this pinwheel somewhere, for just like expectation management and like us as if we as coaches can help the athletes better manage their expectations, then they're probably going to be better at reframing when these situations arise.
Yeah.
You know, basically what this whole pinwheel boils down to is just like, what's the story that you're telling yourself in the moment, and then how are you responding to that story, and being able to go through the appropriate steps, like we mentioned, is typically going to result in a more positive and therefore better outcome.
Kind of like a SMART goal, like it's realistic.
It's realistic, right? Like, okay, you know, you're in the middle miles of the marathon and you're off your splits. Well, yeah, you're running into a headwind. What are you going to do? Get mad at the wind? You know, control your controllables. Your controllable is how you respond to the fact that, okay, I missed my splits for the last 3 miles because I was running into a headwind. Okay. Am I going to be angry about that and let that consume resources? Or am I going to direct my attention and my energy into figuring out, okay, where along this course can I make up that time? But again, it's procedural. That's the word I've been searching for. This whole thing is it's very procedural, and it's really good to go through that whole pinwheel of what's the situation, how am I interpreting it, how am I going to respond to that interpretation, how am I going to behave as a result of my behavior. It's a step by step process, not just a knee-jerk reaction to something that happened.
You made me think there's two very important things that have to happen here. One, you have to be present. You have to be present in the moment of the training session or of the competition to even be knowing, like, what is my state right now? Okay, I'm feeling this. I'm experiencing this during this training session. I'm out here, you know, I'm doing this workout and I'm not hitting my splits the way I should be during this workout. All right, what am I experiencing, and like why? And then you have to be reflective. Why? What could be causing this? Is it because of the weather? You mentioned that race example of the headwind. Is it the weather? Did I eat?
Yeah.
Right? Did I eat enough food? Am I fueled enough for this? Or maybe it's, you know, is there some other stressor in my life that's like weighing on me? Am I trying hard enough?
Right.
You literally might have to ask yourself, am I actually trying hard enough? Maybe the progression in the plan required you to work harder. And sometimes I've done this. I think that, I should be just faster. So I'm just going to like run the same effort and hit the time, which sounds beautiful and like on a training plan. But like in actual practice, I have to try harder to hit this time. And I didn't expect that I needed to try so hard to hit the time. And not like try hard enough to where you're blowing yourself up necessarily, but like to unlock another level of performance when you move to the next level of your plan, like you have to try harder. And sometimes we don't want to try harder. We are not reflective enough to realize that, or we don't want to admit that, even to ourselves.
Yeah. As I was doing the show notes for this episode, that term mindfulness was what I just kept coming back to. I was like, this whole emotional regulation concept is just, again, you know, cognitive reappraisal is just reframing. Emotional regulation, it's just mindfulness, really. All All right. So another thing that will affect your emotional state um, are pre-performance routines or rituals, right? So the examples that you can think of here is just, what does a baseball player do when he steps up into the batter's box, right? They all do something different, but they don't do it differently every time. They do the same thing every time. So that's an example of a pre-performance routine. And when you see, I'm just going to use professional athletes as an example because that's probably the most notable one. Did you watch any of the NBA finals?
Goose egg.
Yeah, me neither.
I don't really watch basketball, honestly.
Yeah.
I don't watch it at all.
We were having a good laugh in the gym with Nick at getting their thoughts on NBA basketball. But yeah, I didn't watch any of it either. But
I don't even know who won. I think the Knicks won.
I do know the Knicks won. But what is it that they're going to do, at the free throw line before they take their shot, right? These pre-performance routines have been shown to reduce anxiety, improve attentional control. There's that word again. Increase confidence, enhance consistency, and improve execution under pressure. So, what does that look like from an emotional standpoint?
Wow.
I'm trying to think of what sport example I want to use. Maybe a few just to bring the point home. Bottom of the ninth, 2 outs, bases loaded. I'm coming up to bat. That's a high pressure situation, right? You're darn right that athlete is nervous. Okay. What steps can they take to help alleviate some of that nervousness and anxiety? Go through the same routine that you went through a million times before under much less high stakes situations.
Make it feel like just another rep.
Make it feel like just another rep. And that is going to affect your mood, right? And then again, we go back to that pinwheel. You're going to interpret that context a little bit differently. Okay, maybe it's the last Game 7 of the World Series, bottom of the ninth, bases loaded, 2 out, or maybe it's just top of the first, Game 1 of a homestand in the middle of the season, right? So you're taking that context, you're interpreting it a little bit differently. The emotional piece is then you're not going to be so anxious about it, and because you're less anxious about it, you have a higher likelihood of performing better. Right. So again, very, very procedural. But these pre-performance routines can be a useful tool for athletes. Do you do anything specific before like a sprint race?
I get into the blocks the same way.
Yeah.
I do that. I get into the blocks the same way when I'm like working out. Like unless I'm doing a lot of starts, and sometimes I won't. But like if I'm not, like Sunday, like I did 3 60-meter sprints and 100, and like I got into the blocks the same way each time, just to like there's just the way that I do it, and it helps just feel like normal. I try to do that whole visualization we talked about in the last episode of like, how do I want this race to go? And I try to keep that in mind. When I look back, I don't often, especially like in the non-hurdle races, have had a lot of races that were bad because I did bad. They were bad because I just wasn't fast enough or fit enough. But like, it's a
good distinction.
I didn't always have like a ton of variability. Like I remember most of the times where I did like in the 300 hurdle, sometimes I would have my race variability would change based on the tactic of how I was trying to like take on the race. But those were like usually intentional choices to try to go faster during certain spots that change up my step counts and like threw off the rhythm of the race a little bit, and sometimes in my favor and sometimes not. But like in like the straight up sprints, Like in the 4x1, when I would do the 4x1, I just had a certain way of going about my practices, knowing, doing my non full speed handoffs, my full speed handoffs, and trusting my mark. Like if I had a mark there, I would tell myself, trust your mark. Every practice rep I would take off. I personally never botched a handoff. At one time I botched a handoff. Actually, no, it was an adult. I did a coach's relay, and it was the person that was coming in. I remember her being really fast in college, and I didn't recognize that, like how much I was still faster than her. It was like it was coach's relay, so I took off way too hard, and she was like not running in that fast. But like I was nervous, so but we still got the handoff. It just wasn't clean. But like in like my actual high school meets, never messed that up. Even when I practiced the high school kids, like I can cleanly just walk into any of them. I watch them run. I immediately know how to time it. But like it's trusting a mark, finding a mark, trusting a mark. So like that my rituals are kind of like just do the thing right, and this is the plan for running a 200. This is the plan for running a 400. Do that thing.
Do the thing.
And trust the thing.
Yeah.
But like those are conversations I have with myself. Like that whole self-talk thing. Those are conversations. When I think about for the petite meet running the 400. All right, you have better shoes. Framing also. I have better shoes. I'm better trained. I'm going to run faster than I did last year. When you get the baton, you're going to be like positively anxious. Take off and use that nervous energy getting around the curve. When you get on the backstretch, run fast feet. Don't try too hard, but keep your foot on the gas, but don't press the gas. Down the backstretch. When you get around the curve, when the fatigue comes as you go around the curve, smile.
Yeah.
I told my kids this at the city championship meet in the 400.
It works.
When you get to the top of the curve, I want to see you smile when that pain sets in. I want you to be like, hey, I was waiting for you. And I got to tell myself that. All right, the pain's here. Now that the pain's here, all right, we got to bounce and we got to move our arms. I don't even do a lot of the, like when it comes to a sprint race and like the 400, I don't even use as many of those like running cues throughout the beginning part. I wait till the fatigue comes to like get into like, okay, your arms need to move this way. You need to bounce. All right. Hey, by the time I'm done going through the first cycle, I'm on the straightaway. All right, you're almost there. Like, just keep your feet down, roll forward. And, like, I try to do that whole thing so that I can, like, the limiter be how fast am I and how fit am I versus, like, I just crap the bed.
Yeah. The things that you mentioned there, there are two bits that are important for this this sort of section here. The action or actions, plural, is important, is repeatable, right? It's something you can do. Well, you get into the blocks frequently. So get into the blocks frequently, or the same way every time, right? It's something that you can just repeat, and it's a sequence of events too. Right? Like you're not just doing one singular action, right? One foot, another foot, there's a whole sequence of events too, right? And what they found is that the repeatable sequence is important when you're talking about things like a pre-performance routine, right? You never see the batter get into the batter's box and just like hit the middle of the plate. You never see a basketball player like just get the ball from the ref for their free throw and like dribble once and then shoot, right? So that's just a call out there, is that to technically qualify as a pre-performance routine, it's a repeatable sequence of events. What I can't speak to is, I don't know, there might be someone out there who regulates their emotional state by taking their bat and hitting the middle of the plate once.
There's probably somebody out
there's
there
got to
like
be
that
guy that like that's what works. But let's call it 99%. There are multiple steps to this routine.
I think one of the challenging parts to that is kind of going into the visualization of doing well. When I was thinking about I sound like I have it all put together. The challenging part is being able to visualize beating people when you're nervous if they're faster than you. Like that's where, like, you know, that ritual helps, but also having good enough positive self-talk and visualization of what you need to do, and believing in yourself, and really kind of pumping yourself up so that you can trust that you will do well against that competitor.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
This is something that we should unpack off air, but like I'm curious in the sprint content, like because this sprint is so objective, right? I'm like, do sprinters have bad days, or do, like, going in what you're gonna run? Because, like, I know from a competitor standpoint in a distance event, a lot can happen over the course of several miles, and like that guy who's objectively faster than me might just have a bad day.
Yeah.
Right.
I think that it depends on maturity, and not just maturity of like being a more mature person, but also like event maturity.
Yeah.
Of being able to have a good read on yourself. And I think the event matters, right? I don't know. I know that lesser experienced athletes have way more variability, and they're more surprised at the variability. So not just that they have more
That makes
variability,
sense.
they're more
That
surprised
stands
at
to
it.
reason.
I think that from my experience, more mature athletes, there's a range that they know they should run in, and if they run out of that range, they've noticed, like, you know, mature athletes, they can tell, oh, that was probably fire. Now, sometimes it wasn't, but it was at the better end of their range, and sometimes it was a personal best. But if it was like really slow, they usually know that. Just like something was off about the actual execution.
I was gonna say, barring like a execution piece, like just not getting out of the blocks as quickly as you thought, or things like that. All right, so that's sort of an intro into the emotional regulation piece of sports psychology and mental skills training. The last part I think we're going to save for next time is the acceptance-based approach. This is there's just a lot to explore here, and I feel like it's important enough that we shouldn't rush through it. Probably stands to be its own episode, so maybe we'll get into that next time. But
you can make a whole philosophy experience on acceptance.
Yeah, right. Yeah, with the two of us, that conversation is going to veer away from sports and athletic performance pretty quickly. I'm sure. A few key takeaways for today, gang. Normalize emotions, right? They can be your friends. Don't try to suppress or ignore them, but focus primarily on your response to the emotion, not the emotion itself.
Yes, that's the response.
Yeah. Go through that pinwheel. Reward process, especially under pressure, right? Go back to those pre-performance routines. And just like we spoke about in the last episode, you can't turn this stuff on. You have to practice it in training. So just like with Coach Donald getting into his blocks the same way over and over and over again, that baseball player in the bottom of the ninth can't just make up a routine on the spot and that'll calm him down, right? So this is all stuff, again, it's trainable qualities, just like all the other things we talk about on the show. So anything else you want to add before we sign off here, Coach?
Hey, no, just check out our Strength Training for Running's webinar. It's on our website, www.ghperformance. It's in the show notes. It's your full-service webinar on how to do strength training as a beginning runner or as a beginning strength training person. You could be running for decades. It teaches you how to put together your workouts, how to incorporate plyometrics, and like visual guides on like what are some of the main exercises you need to do. So check that out. And we'll be launching our fall race training here later in July, going into August. So if you're interested in being able to run a wonderful race in October, November, or you have a series of races you want to do in the fall going into the winter, reach out to us. We'll have some spaces available towards the second half of the summer.
I feel like, since we're talking about this, like I can write your programming and your workouts and also kind of be your therapist if you want to talk about managing your emotions.
Awesome. Y'all have a great run. Make sure you share this podcast with somebody you think you could that could benefit from it. And if you're interested in Coach Tim being your strength coach, running coach, and your therapist, you could also reach out to us that way. Ciao.
See ya.